Hey guys, it's your buddy Choppadong, and we're going to do a little MLB Made Easy today. And I'm going to throw a little twist in at the end and show you how to build the secret cash game lineup system. It's going to blow you away how simple it is. For those of you that have already been asking or already been building by it, you can attest to the fact that it works. So why do unnecessary research these days? We've done all the heavy lifting for you at DFSArmy.com, where I hail from, coach and contributor extraordinaire, notorious smallaballa, whatever you want to call it. That's where you find me. You find us in our Discords. There's a link in the description of the video. While you're there, like, subscribe the video, consider becoming a VIP, and we can talk until we're blue in the face about baseball and simplifying the complexities of this game that make you a better player. Simple, simple, simple. That said, let's dive in. Let's show you the simplest system of all, which is the process from beginning to end and how I'm going to narrow down my player pool and narrow down my bats. I'm going to let the optimizers do the most lifting for me, but I'm going to set up my stacks. I'm going to trim the player pool a little bit, give some boost to some players, etc., etc. I'll show you how I do the first part of the research. I won't show you how I set up the domination station for that yet. But when I do get to the domination station, I'll show you how I set it up for cash games. So really, truly, this video won't take very long. They never do. They never need to, because we've hyper simplified everything we do. MLB Research Station, DFSArmy.com. You go to the pitchers tab. Doesn't matter which one you use. The stats stay the same. I'm not even using the projections or anything, to be honest with you. Maybe on a rare day I'll look at them, but I typically don't. I don't need to. That's all determined by smarter people than me. So I slide over here after I cut down to just the main slate, of course. Largest to smallest in K-score, strikeout matchup identifier. And Hernandez, probably small sample size. I can see the red there in the games. If I slide over just a smidge. 7 games, 28 innings pitched, 1 game, 4 innings. These are small sample sizes on some of these guys. They may not even average very many innings per pitch when they do pitch, but so he's got a high K-score. Good for him. I'm not all that concerned about it. I'm looking at these guys here, the 550, the 545, the 501. These are the guys I would key on for hybrids and tournament type builds. If you don't know what a hybrid build is, you need to ask me that. You come into the free room, you tag me, you ask me. That's simple. I'll give you the definition in there. But what we're looking for is high strikeout potential, of course, and it oftentimes will get us off the chalk because a lot of people won't see it. Lance Lynn, Griffin Canning, Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish probably be chalk tonight. So Lance Lynn with higher strikeout potential than Yu Darvish, yes, makes a ton of sense as a pivot. Lance Lynn, $500 cheaper. Griffin Canning, $3,000 cheaper. Yes, you can tell that there's going to be a discount there, and he's actually got more strikeout potential in theory than Yu Darvish does tonight. So whatever you want to say, there may be a safety factor in a Yu Darvish, but you've got some upside in Griffin Canning and Lance Lynn that you may want to take advantage of. Pretty simple stuff, right? These would be the guys I'd be keying on, and they would be in the majority of my lineups. If any of these other guys appear in any of my other lineups, it's going to be a very, very, very small percentage, and it's going to be because the optimizers threw them in there, okay? Oftentimes what I do is I just go to the optimizer and take the top 5 owned guys, add in these guys if I see them on the high K-scores, and then voila. Off and running I go. I'm booting these turds down here. Cheaper pitches. Remember I've said cheaper pitches is one way, cheaper pitchers is one way to stack lineups. Yes, Hernandez is cheaper. If you want to run Pittsburgh out there, be my guest. You want to come down here and run Milwaukee out there, that's fine too. But you want to stick down here towards the bottom as well. LA, St. Louis, Arizona should all be fairly popular stacks tonight. Okay? Because they're going to cheaper pitching is just one good identifier towards good opportunities for bats, because cheaper pitchers generally are not very good pitchers. That's why they don't cost $11,000. However, I can flip the script and go to W score, and that's a WOBA metric that shows the WOBA for a team facing the WOBA allowed of a pitcher added together, more or less, and you see these big numbers. Is there an arbitrary number I look for? 600, 700, something like that gets me excited. I don't get excited at 500 something, and I see a lot of 650 and above, or mid 600s and above, right? These are the guys we're keying on. We'll stay away from these guys down here. They're just not giving up now, unless, again, we're on small sample sizes, indicated by the red in the games category. So maybe you can stack against those guys, but you want to stay against your Yu Darvishes, Lance Lynn's, Taijuan Walkers. They're just not in outstanding, hitter matchups tonight for the bats to stack against. So I'm looking more for these guys. So slide over. Arizona, Chicago, San Francisco, Chicago, LA, Miami. Let's write those down really quick since we've got the time today. Arizona, Chicago, both Chicagos, San Francisco, LAA, and who's right below that? Miami and Cincinnati. And I like the Cincinnati idea. It's going to be middle of the pack. Adam Wainwright. Ooh, I like the fact for the Cardinals that Wainwright's going. I thought Oviedo was, but being that Wainwright is going to, actually he might have been used last night, so they bumped Wainwright up a day. That's good. Give a 39-year-old pitcher a short day of rest. That's smart. But their bullpen got wrecked last night. And if Cincinnati can get into it, we know they can score runs. If Cincinnati can get into the Cardinal bullpen again today, they might wreck them again. And so that's a sneaky little tournament play. If you see under-owned players on those Cincinnati Reds teams because people are all over, Chicago or something else instead, man, you might want to bump your percentages of those Cincinnati Reds because it may not work tonight, but man, it might. And if it does, you might fly well under the radar. So now that I've knocked those particular teams down, what I'm going to do is I'll go into the Trends tab, and I'm going to filter off the main slate. I'm going to sort 7-day WOBAs by 400 and above, 7-day ISOs by 200 and above, and I'm going to see what the short list looks like. I'm going to alphabetize these names and look for teams. Arizona was on that list as one of the chalkier, more obvious stacks tonight. I only see one hot hitter in there in Marte, and so the rest of the offense is scuffling a little bit. Maybe this is a get-right spot. Maybe they're swinging cold and they just aren't playing very good baseball right now. That's your call. But Chicago is on that list. The Cubs, they've got 3 hot bats. You've got Adam Eaton over on the Chicago White Sox side. Again, it's just one. If I see just one batter and I see a smash spot W score-wise, I have to make a call. Is it a get-right spot or is it a cold offense that isn't going to do well tonight? If the ownership is high on these teams, I probably won't use them as much. If the ownership is low, maybe I convince myself it's a get-right spot. But what I like seeing is a team that is in one of those W score spots like the Chicago Cubs that have a few hot bats on them. I will key on those players in our optimizers and we'll rock and roll. If you remember 2 or 3 days ago, I told you Patrick Wisdom is on a small sample size, but he's hot. You should play him. Boom, he dongs that night, over and done. It's not rocket science to pick this stuff out. And you'll see that when we get to the cash game secret build here in a little bit. But I'm looking at Detroit. Okay, Detroit maybe sneaks in there a little bit. There won't be a popular stack. Kansas City, Miami was. There's 2 hot bats to choose from there. Milwaukee was. 2 hot bats to choose from there. I didn't see Mets. Pittsburgh, I told you, consider some Pittsburgh. They're going up against that, a shaky pitcher potentially. And you got Brian Reynolds, Adam Frazier, and Kai Tom. If those guys all make the lineup tonight, boom, you're in like Flynn, man. It's worth looking at, okay? Fernando Tatis, Will Myers, Tommy Pham. If Tommy Pham plays, he looked pretty pissed when they took him out of the game yesterday. Maybe he plays. Seattle, San Francisco. Only one bat in San Francisco. Only one bat in St. Louis. So these are teams that if I see strong matchups, again, I have to determine is it a get-right spot or not. But if it is, I certainly want these guys in my stack. And if it's not, and I'm not stacking the Giants or I'm not stacking the Cardinals, now you're talking about one-off situations, and these guys make great one-offs. So you take these names and you boost them in our optimizer by simply changing the smiley face to a yellow smiley face. It boosts them 15%, okay? And that will take that number and pull it forward and make that optimizer want to use that player more if it pulls him into the range where he is being used. It may not pull him far enough forward. That's okay. Again, I'm letting the optimizer do the heavy lifting for me. But when it comes to the secret cash game spot, because that's tournaments, and that's going to be what that's going to be. And as lineups confirm, things will change, ownerships will change. We can use different ways of doing different things. But that's pretty much what we're going to be looking at. And then we'll let the optimizer finish the rest off with all the stacks and everything else. In terms of cash games in the secret system, it's just using ownership as points. You've heard me mention that before. I'm going to set it up by using a couple of unique players, a smidge of randomness. I might even allow pitchers against my hitters against my pitcher. But in a cash game scenario, I probably would not do something like that. I might make about 25 lineups just to see where things go. You can make 10, you can make 5, whatever you want to make. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start with a number like 200 on the projected ownership cap. And what am I using? Draftkings this time? So I'm going to need two hefty pitchers, right? If you come down here and you sort by projected ownership, you can see the guys to the top. Darvish and Lynn are going to be popular. Yelich, Wong, Canning. Canning's going to be, so a lot of Darvish, Canning, Lynn, Canning, that stuff's going to be popular. Marte's going to be popular. Looks like Upton's going to be popular. So go for it. People are going to bail for Hernandez for the cheap. That's fine too. If you're playing cash games and you're using these numbers, generally speaking, you can hide pretty well within the chalk. Uh-oh. Got to comply by 2. So don't tell anybody I did this. Shh. Don't tell anybody I did this. But I'm just going to change these numbers ever so slightly to where they really don't do a damn thing. That gets around that stupid workaround that DraftKings put into place a few years ago. That was the dumbest thing they ever could have done because the workaround was as easy as taking candy from a baby. Speaking of taking candy from a baby, that's what we're going to do tonight in those cash games once we get this lineup built, because I'm looking for a 200 and above. Once I see 25 lineups, I take it, I sort by projected ownership. I find the highest number possible, 211. It got over easy enough. Let's cut it down to 10 lineups. So let's cut it down to 5 lineups because it'll take even less time. And let's jack this number up to 240. See if it can get me ownerships. This is a minimum ownership I'm using. So every lineup this thing builds is going to be over 240% when you add all of the players. Pitcher, first base, second base, third base, whatever. Add them all together. You're going to get over, there's a 240. So, and look at what it's using in the projected ownership column. It's using both big pitchers, and then it finds popular bats around Carson Kelly, Christian Walker. Arizona, we said, was a W score team. Colton Wong, Hunter Dozier is hot. Kevin Newman, Brian Reynolds, a couple of Pittsburgh guys because they're cheap. Kittle Marte. So you're looking, I don't like using more than about 3 bats. I don't like to stack in cash games. 3 is about my limit. But I'm going to keep going. Let's bump this baby up to 280 and see if it'll do it. And then I'll come back down when it tells me it can't, which it just told me it can't. Fine. So let's come down to 260. Split the difference. Can you get me a 260? Can we get a 260? That's a no. So we come down to 250 because we were at 240, and we see if it can do that. No! Looks like 240 is the winner today. 240 is still a pretty big number on a decent sized slate. So once I come down here and I've got those 5 lineups built, right? Now, all I'm going to do is think about what contests I'm playing. If I'm playing cash games, I want to be right in here somewhere, right? And look, it shuffled them up a little bit. I got 3 Brewers in there now instead of 3 Arizona Diamondbacks. That's that little bit of randomness. Randomizing these projections, but still forcing a lineup over 240% into your lineup when it comes to ownership numbers, okay? So you're going to get some differentiation anyway. You're going to get, you might not be on every perfect play. You might miss a guy or two in terms of popularity around the league, but you're going to be really, really close. And if you're really, really close, you're using a lot of the right players. A lot of the players the pros are using, a lot of the players the optimizers are putting in people's lineups based on projections, but based on value. And you're just using ownership projections to find it because the chalk is smart these days. The chalk is not very often stupid. Okay, so now that I've got these lineups built, what am I going to do? If 240 is my magic number, then all I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate how close do I want to be to the chalk. Say within 10%, 216. So anything, I may change this right here, do my lineups, like my players, adore, boost my players, whatever. Come down here and change this to a 215, maybe build 20 lineups and rip it. And that's going to start showing me the players that I want to see. And it's going to be within 10% of that highest ownership build, which means I'm going to be close enough for cash games that this is a viable lineup. It makes sense. You still get to pick. You still get to determine what you want to do. The numbers that I would use based off of that 240, though, for league play, say about 75%. So over, I would change that number to a 180 today, right? And half. 240 divided by 2 is pretty easy. 120 for tournaments. I want to be over 120 for tournaments, over 180 for leagues, over 220 or whatever for cash games, and I'm in like Flynn. Guys, this has been Choppadong. Easy building, easy MLB DFS. Have a good Thursday. We'll catch you on the main slate. Hopefully I see you up on the leaderboards. Peace out.